1380 KCIM Sports presents KCIM Sports Rewind. A look back at the week in high school sports. Brought to you by St. Anthony Rehab Services. Here's Sports Director Jeff Blankman, John Ryan, and Jeff Honnold.
Welcome back, KCIM Sports Rewind. We are going to be talking about what, Jeff Honnold?
Playoffs.
Playoffs later on.
I was going to say, he was so reserved on that first one. I knew something was coming.
Oh, I'm still recovering.
We're just waiting for the explosion to go on.
No, there's
here,
not a lot of explosion. It's limited today.
Yeah, we are going to talk a lot about that. Volleyball playoffs begin tonight. Football playoffs, of course, are coming up very soon, November 1st for that. We do want to take a minute here before we get into some of the fun of the show, but to send our condolences and our thoughts out to the Malinsky family.
Yes.
Chris, of course, Carroll basketball coach. We all got to know him there. That's how I got to know him anyway. His daughter, Abby, tragically passing away this week. So, I mean, going through the...
Sweet girl.
Yeah,
I knew her really well, and it's a sad deal. Tough one. I mean, she was really one of those really sweet girls. She never really played sports. She was in Carroll dance for a long time, and just
my daughter was on the team with her for a couple of years. She was a couple of years older.
Just a sweet girl. I
always saw her taking pictures at the Carroll games where Colby was playing, her dad was coaching, her mom sitting right there behind him, and I can see that vividly.
Yeah, absolutely. Thoughts and prayers go out to the entire family. Got to know Chris and Colby extremely well through Colby playing, of course, and Chris being the head boys basketball coach there at Carroll High. So I reached out to both of those two yesterday, and again, thoughts and prayers go out to the family.
Yeah, going through the unimaginable right now. That's just unbelievable. So we definitely wanted to do that first and foremost. Okay, now on to a few lighter things. Bennett Blake, one of our favorite guys from down south.
Yes.
From way down south in Atlantic. That's south of I-80, in case you didn't know, Jeff.
Thanks for that.
He tweeted out the other day, if you follow him, I follow him on Snapchat, and I follow him on Twitter as well, had just an insane statistic that he tweeted out the other day. For Atlantic, Tyler Moen.
Yep.
I'm not familiar with the kid.
Really good athlete.
Very fast.
He's clearly a very fast athlete because he went for, against, you said it was Shenandoah?
Yep, Shenandoah.
Shenandoah, get this stat line from last Friday night. 31 carries, 5 touchdowns, which, okay, that's you see that in high school football, but 523 yards.
I'm trying to figure out how Bennett did all the math because he doesn't have that many fingers and toes.
Tom Robinson did the game, so Tom
did the math
and then passed it along to Bennett.
So we know that those are accurate.
Yeah, there's no way Bennett could do that kind of math.
He probably even didn't get his toes out to try and count that. So.
Second highest single game total in state history. That is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I have never seen anybody even come close. Maybe 200 yards at most in any games I've ever done.
That kid can fly.
Yeah, I've seen some 300-yard rushing games. In fact, we had Sam Wagner just a few years ago that had that 200 and some in the first half, nearly 300 in the first half here locally for IKM Manning. But impressive athlete. I didn't get to see the Kemper Atlantic game earlier this year, but would have liked to have kind of got a chance to watch this young guy run. I've seen him at a lot of track meets over the years and kind of looking forward to the track season again to get to watch him run again.
No kidding. Wow.
Yeah.
Do they have a 523-yard dash? Because he can do it all at once there.
I know this much. I don't want to run it against him, that's for sure.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Also this week I saw on Twitter, too, I spend a lot of time. I spend an inordinate amount of time on Twitter.
You do.
I stalk a lot of people.
That and Snapchat, yeah.
Yeah, I do, actually. So Blaze Gunnarsson 5 days ago tweeted out, he says, made it.
Yep.
And I looked at it, and the link that he posted was from Huddle.
Yes.
A site that a lot of athletes go to, a lot of coaches go to get their highlights. He was named to the all-name team.
Yes.
On the thing, and it was crazy. You looked at the video they had posted. Check out some of the names on the all-name team from high school football. One kid was named Cross Jumper.
Yep.
Okay, not a bad name. Love this one for a football player, Tank Bigsby. If that doesn't scream football at you, I don't know.
It screams like running back or linebacker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nailed by Tank Bigsby. That Major Burns was another one.
Oh, nice.
That's from what was MASH or something, wasn't it? Major Burns.
Yeah,
and
there you go.
Yeah.
Some parents have a wicked sense of humor out there.
Oh, yeah.
Let's name our kid Major Burns. Also, maybe the greatest one of all, Demon Clowney.
Oh,
that name.
Yeah.
Who wants to line up across Demon Clowney?
Yeah, not me.
Yeah, no.
I do it.
Plus Blaze Gunnarsson. And in the video, they have a Blaze blazing across the line and just blowing through a guy.
That had to have been the St. Albert game when he sent the running back that was coming over to chip him. He just sent him flying backwards. Yes.
Yeah, it was a crazy video for that one. But yeah, congratulations to being named for the all name team. But that's not the only honor he got.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They're going to be hosting a ceremony and an assembly tomorrow afternoon up at Kemper. For Blaze. It'll get underway at 3 o'clock. He is going to be named to the All-American Bowl. They'll present him his jersey for the game tomorrow. Again, it'll take place at 3 o'clock up at the Kemper High Gym. I'll be up there to try and get some video and some interviews and stuff with Blaze. But quite an honor, being named All-American. He'll be down in Dallas or in Texas where they play the game coming up later on this year.
Fun
and
kid.
Stuff. So absolutely.
I was messing with him again the other day at the volleyball game. He's one of those kids that he walks and just
so well.
He just walks up and smiles. So he knows it's coming.
And so grounded down to earth.
He enjoys it. He really enjoys being around.
Future boss was checking him out on Friday night.
Yeah, we got some pictures of him at Roselle Mutual.
We're talking Scott Frost.
Both of his bosses there. Eric Chenander, the defensive coordinator there as well. So.
Nobody knows who that is.
Tom Brinks got to spend some time talking to Scott Frost. Said he was a really nice guy and really had to kind of break away, take pictures. Scott was more than cordial with him and was there kind of recruiting a couple different guys, but really, really nice. Had a good time with him, so we got some good shots. Got some really good shots at Kemper, and ESAC was posted yesterday. So took me a little while to get them done.
And had the Glidden Audubon games and the Carroll High games posted Friday night into Saturday.
Carroll band got posted this morning. So
okay.
So lots of photos to take a look at there. Where do we want to begin? What sport you want to begin with today?
I suppose we can start maybe with volleyball. We've talked a little bit of football, but we'll get back to that here a little bit.
The postseason here in about 10 hours from now?
Yeah. We've got postseason volleyball getting underway tonight. A bunch of local teams. Audubon going to be at Glidden Ralston. Peyton Churdan will be at Coon Rapids Bayard. And then I'll be over in Dunlap, going back to my old stomping grounds over there.
Do they let you
Dow
back
City.
In?
No, they'll probably make me route around Dow City to get over to Dunlap.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but
I'm still waiting for that sign, home of Jeff Blankman.
Yeah. Luckily, never going to happen. Luckily, it'll never
I know the
happen.
Cogdale boys over there. They might put one up for me.
And underneath they'll say, claims he can still dunk a basketball.
We might have to put Hall of Fame on
Not since
the sign.
my early 40s.
Jeff Blankman, Hall of Famer. I think I can get Cogdales to do that.
I actually could dunk if we lowered the rim to 6 foot. But
let's talk about real athletes that are going on.
Yeah.
So that a lot of those teams winding up in the same bracket.
Yeah.
Which is kind of disappointing. But
all 5 of our 1A schools all in the same bracket. So that's kind of difficult that we're going to lose them fairly quickly because they'll have to be playing each other. But want to bounce back. Last Tuesday, the Carroll girls wrapped up the Raccoon River Conference Championship. Hard-fought 3-2 victory against Winterset. Needed that to win it outright. If they'd have lost that match, they'd have tied with Bondurant and Winterset for the conference championship. So we talked about it last Tuesday. No surprise they lost the first set. No surprise they won the 5th set. That's just something that
I believe you called that, huh?
Yeah.
they thirds and fifths. They've been
struggled with third Saturday up at Algona, but up until then they'd really been dominant in thirds and fifths all year.
Mm-hmm.
The Algona thing is, everything is set and settled. It's hard to play up for that one. Everything's done. You got your brackets. It's more of a practice setting than it is a tournament. So I can understand maybe not doing it, but when they come out flying those 5th sets. So they just there you go. It takes the first set, and it almost seems like the girls are reading.
Right.
It takes them a while to figure out maybe what the other team's doing to them or what they're doing. So it takes them a game, almost about half a game for them to kind of figure it out, and then they seem to do really well from there. And then definitely that 5th game, they seem to just come right out flying.
It's just that comfort level going into the 5th game. You just have confidence. It's just a mental thing.
And dominated the 4th game that night as well, which really kind of helped them I think get take that momentum into that 5th game. Also want to mention last Thursday, big win for Kemper. They vaulted all the way up to number 2 this week in the latest volleyball rankings in Class 3. That's up 5 spots. They were 8th, so up 6 spots actually. But they They knocked off number 1 Sergeant Bluff Luton, who Carroll could potentially see in a regional final in Class 4A over at Ankeny Centennial, and then dropped a tough 3-setter to Ankeny Centennial, who's ranked at 9th in Class 5A. So Kemper kind of all of a sudden, I think a lot of people were questioning how good they were after that Lewis Central loss here a couple of weeks ago, and they went up, won the Hampton-Dumont tournament, then come back and knock off number 1 in 4A. This is a team that's capable of beating anybody in volleyball when they're on.
That just tells you how good that Lewis Central team really is.
Sometimes those losses are not a bad thing. They get you refocused very quickly, especially with the playoffs right around the corner.
You bet. And Kemper then went down to Glenwood last night, got a 3-1 victory, lost the first set, came back, won the next 3. That clinched them a share of the conference championship. They tied with Red Oak and Lewis Central, each with 1 loss in the conference. So congratulations to Keith Stickrod as well for a conference championship again this year.
So what you're saying is Carroll's got some pretty good volleyball in this town.
Yeah, playing
very
really well.
good. Very, very good volleyball right now. Conference champions for both programs right here in town. And you don't have to go too far to the east to find another conference champion. Glidden Ralston won the conference a couple of weeks ago during the regular season Saturday. They had to go down to Coon Rapids for the Rolling Valley Conference tournament, knocked off Caminita Booyer Valley, and then defeated Coon Rapids Bayard in a hard 5-setter in the championship match, winning that last one 15-11. So Gretchen Wallace, we haven't mentioned a lot about her this year, but man, she is having an amazing season and had a great tournament for them.
Then just go up to East Sac, and they're the regular season champion and tournament champion
and
as well.
conference tournament champions up there as well from the Twin Lakes.
Sort of reminiscent a few years ago, we had all the golf teams like Carroll County all ranked like number 1.
Yes. Yeah, we've got some really strong volleyball in this area. We got...
We have a lot of teams should make deep runs here.
Yeah, absolutely. If all the 1A schools weren't having to play against each other, Glidden and Coon could meet up in the second round of the playoffs if they both win tonight, which kind of impacts our numbers a little bit. But I think we got about 4 or 5 teams that have legitimate chances to be in regional finals.
If you just split Coon and Glidden, both of those teams would have probably gone deep.
Yep.
You know, they're going to meet up, and one of them's going to be eliminated. But I think we should have probably at least 3, maybe 4, possibly 5 making regional finals.
Yeah. So good year so far this year for volleyball.
As good as the volleyball is in this area, that's how hard it is to make it the state tournament.
Yes,
it is.
Absolutely.
Because there are just some incredible teams out there around the state. So that kind of wraps up volleyball. Again, give us the schedule tonight, and I know we have more tomorrow night.
You bet. We've got Audubon at Glidden Ralston tonight. Jeff will have that call on KKRL, if I remember correctly.
Apologize
tonight.
to everybody for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got the Peyton Jourdan at Coon Rapids Bayard game over on Kick 106.7 with Nick Brinks. And then I'll be over in Booyer Valley tonight with our Arweva. They'll take on Booyer Valley tonight. I'll have that on KCIM. All of those are 7 o'clock starts. And then tomorrow night, it's Greene County at Kemper, opening ground for Kemper tomorrow night. I'll have that matchup again, 7 o'clock here on KCIM tomorrow night. Then everything takes a break until Monday of next week for volleyball playoffs.
Got to get in that week 9 high school football, too. We're going to talk about that coming up next on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athlete...
Slow down, slow down.
Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind, and a couple things to note. How long have we been doing this on live stream with Johnston Communications?
It's
been a while now.
About
a year,
close
maybe?
to a year,
Is it
probably.
that
Yeah,
long,
or
guys?
longer, yeah.
It's been
Yeah.
a year, so we finally figured out that we should get them chairs.
And they had to go get them themselves.
It's not like we brought them in. They decided to get their own chairs now, so
Yeah,
they're not
poor Jason
squatting
had
in
to
the
go
back of
across the hall and roll them in here before the show. Otherwise, we were going to throw them on the floor again.
It only took us a year to figure that out.
I'm still trying to figure out why Chelsea has boots on in here. I know it's full.
They sit over there in front of that fan the entire time.
I just thought maybe it was because we're full of it. Here
Well,
stuff can get a little deep.
That could possibly be too.
Other thing we got to talk about, of course, is the great folks at Carroll Lumber locations in Wall Lake, Lakeview, and Odebolt. Man, that wind was brutal yesterday and again today.
There's limbs down in my
You
neighborhood.
don't tell me you're not going to lose some heat out of your house through all this. So insulation is the key. You can get the fiberglass insulation or something we discussed extensively before the show, cellulose insulation. And you made a great distinction, Jeff.
I have cellulite, so I'm usually pretty good shape with the insulation part, but cellulose is probably cheaper.
And then led me to the next line, which cracked me up. Just give them your dimensions, and they'll tell you how much you need.
And we won't talk about the coveralls I ordered.
Cellulose, that is. Cellulose, not the cellulite.
Oh, okay.
So, but no, they're great at that. I mean, yeah, it's as easy as that, and sometimes it's just topping off with some insulation. Older homes, I tell you what, you think you're doing good, and then the snow hits, and you realize the snow's melting off your roof really fast. That's not good.
Right.
That's where you're leaking the heat out of your home. So best way to do that is to get it taken care of now. Just give them a call. Say, how much should I have? Here's the dimensions of my house. They'll recommend either the cellulose or the blown-in insulation. They can do that at any location. So talk to the great folks, the experts at Carroll Lumber, locations in Wall Lake, Lakeview, and Odebolt.
I wonder if I can give some of my cellulite.
And never confuse cellulite and cellulose ever again.
I don't think anybody wants any of it, Jeff.
It's like stalactites and stalagmites.
Oh, I get confused.
Let's start with a conference champion, IKM Manning. Boy, they've had an up-and-down season early in the year, but as of lately, it's all been on the upward trend.
Yeah, you look at that non-district schedule, though, and there's no surprise that it was kind of up and down. They played up, class sizes and all of them. ACGC wasn't ranked to begin the year, but is in the rankings now and is a really good football team. South Central Calhoun is good a football team as you're going to find. And
ESAC was playing well.
ESAC playing really well, especially now that they've gotten healthy. In Underwood, they had to go on the road and take on an Underwood team that's been a ranked team all season long in Class 1A. So not surprised.
And they weren't healthy.
Right, yeah, absolutely. They were banged up. They had to move their running back and quarterbacks around. They've gotten healthy. They've gotten into the district. And what second halves they've had the last 2 weeks. Struggled losing to Sioux Central on the road at halftime last week. That great coaching staff that they had led by Tom Casey made the adjustments. The kids came out, did what they needed to do in the second half and really started dominating that game almost from the get-go in the second half and really pulled away to a pretty convincing win, locking up that district championship.
Key stat for me, 3 turnovers forced by that IKM Manning defense.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a theme of our area teams here that are doing really well. All of their defenses are very, very strong. The offenses are good, but the defenses are shut down.
Absolutely. And Kyler Rasmussen started the year at quarterback. They moved him kind of into that fullback role after Colton Brandt had gotten injured, and they left him there after Colton came back. He has been absolutely fantastic, carrying the ball 30-some times a game, is always going up over 100 yards. Him and Amos each went over 100 yards this last weekend. So just a really good football team right now. They've got a very winnable game against Ridgeview, who struggled, coming up on Friday night. So they should be able to go into the playoffs, I would think, fairly healthy and really
and even just get a win. You're not going to help your RPI by winning over Ridgeview. So.
Right, yeah, absolutely. So no matter what happens in that game, they're the district champion. So now it'll be whether or not they get a host in that first round or not. But the way they're playing right now, I don't know if anybody else in 1A, is going to look at them like they maybe would have early in the season.
How about Coon Rapids Bear? Big win against Cam Anita as they came in the number 1 in RPI, right?
Yeah, they did. Ranked 6th in the Associated Press, but number 1 in the RPI, partially based off of the strength of their opponent's schedule. If you look at their opponents, they hadn't really locked horns with anybody that was great yet this year until they met up with Coon Rapids Bear. I will say,
I think you looked at the Woodbine one, and they held Woodbine down, and it kind of made you look, and then you found out one of the Prior
Woodbine's
boys.
quarterback was hurt.
Yeah, one of the Prior boys was hurt, so that definitely hurt them.
And not to take anything away, they're a terrific football team. They've got a big matchup with Audubon coming up this weekend.
Yeah, but they have that gauntlet at the end of the year. They had Coon Rapids Bear and then they had Audubon.
You bet. So, yeah, joked a little bit with Chris Moore last night. He was at the swim meet watching his daughter Madison swim, but I went up to him and I says, hey, next time you're playing a good football team, you don't have to spot them 18 in the first quarter
exactly.
and then come back and kind of dominate the game after that. But that's what happened. They gave up 18 in the first quarter, kind of couldn't get the offense going a little bit.
That's got to be a major concern.
Absolutely. And Cam, but I thought the really interesting thing is you're down 18-0 in the first quarter. There was no panic. They didn't all of a sudden start trying to throw the ball all over the place. They stayed with their their run game, made some adjustments, found where the weaknesses were at. It was right down the middle, and they just started pounding Cam down the center of that defense and did everything they needed after that.
That's what they do, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, they tried to get the edges early and couldn't get the edges because Cam's got a lot of athletes and a lot of speed. Finally, they said, you know what, we're just going to run it right at you, and we're going to get 6, 7, 8, 9, 12 yards per chunk.
But I think he did the same thing against Audubon. There's no panic because that defense is so good.
Yep.
I mean, it's a shutdown defense. So you can, you spot them 18. All right, that's your 18. You're not scoring anymore. We're gonna do what we do, and we're gonna bleed the clock out. We're gonna finish this thing off.
Got up 26-18 though, and then all of a sudden Cam scores to tie it up. But then Gabe Orbert wins it for him. Took the kickoff back for a touchdown, and that turned out to be the difference in the game in the fourth quarter.
Great video by Kate Nissen, by the way.
Yes,
online
absolutely.
on that game.
Roselle Mutual Game of the Week. You
He
bet.
does a terrific job with that. Carroll High, another big win, of course. That just sets up the big game here at the end of the season, week number 9, and it's a must-win for the Tigers.
Yeah, knew the Tigers probably wouldn't struggle much. Maybe struggled a little bit more early in the game than what I anticipated, but a 45-6 victory. Abraham Dirks had a great game. Carried the ball just 7 times for 139 yards and 3 touchdowns. Got that jet sweep going, and that really, really worked well for them.
I think back to week 0 when we were talking about teams, and we mentioned Carroll and Coon Rapids that maybe are sleepers that people didn't know about. And, there is Carroll High right there.
Yep.
DCG this weekend, winner goes to the playoffs.
Yeah, kind of knew once they got into the district because they played their non-conference schedule minus maybe that Glenwood game. Even they played Fort Dodge pretty well, I thought, that night. You got into that district. You knew it was probably going to come down to them and DCG. You wondered about Webster City. But when they won that game, I really kind of said after that Webster City win, I'm like, there really shouldn't be anybody push them until they get to the DCG game.
I love the line for Abraham Dirks. 7 carries, 139 yards, 3 TDs. Nothing like averaging 19.99999 yards per carry in that game. So that was pretty good. South Central continues to roll.
Yeah, they'd been struggling at the beginning of the games lately in the previous 2 weeks, and Coach came out and kind of challenged them before that game started to not start slow. I don't know if you can get much better than a 49-0 first quarter start.
No,
that
that's pretty
game
good.
was that in Eagle Grove's. They're a team that had to forfeit all of their games last year because they didn't have enough kids to play. They played a JV schedule. They're still really young. A lot of those young kids, they're kind of taking a beating this year. But for South Central to come out and just absolutely take control of that game early. When I talked with Brian Saturday up at the Dome up in Cedar Falls, he said it was a lot of 1- and 2-play touchdown drives, and then they'd instantly get a fumble or an interception, 1 or 2 plays into Eagle Grove's drive and turn those into touchdowns themselves. So just a dominant performance, and I think what they needed heading into their big game against Pocahontas. They've got the district wrapped up because of the RPI rankings, but if Pokey would get them this weekend, you could have a 3-way tie in that district. I just don't think Pokey's got what it takes to get it done. This South Central Calhoun team's really good.
This defense is incredible.
Yep.
Yeah, they're a complete team, no doubt about that, and they got to be the odds-on favorite for that one. Audubon, Glidden Ralston matching up over the weekend. It's kind of a learning experience for Glidden Ralston as they transition a little bit into a different style of football, but Audubon just kind of showing who Audubon is.
Yeah, and I think the scary thing for people with Audubon is Coach Burks loves big plays. They want explosive plays, and I don't know if they always get as many as they needed, but they went up against a good Glidden defense and ran 23 offensive plays the whole game and scored a touchdown on every possession until the very last possession of the game when they kneeled down. So when you're scoring 9 touchdowns on 23 offensive plays, actually 8 touchdowns, one of them was a kickoff return, but 8 touchdowns on 23 offensive plays, that's executing about as well as you can execute.
And this is a pretty good Glidden Ralston defense. They held Coon Rapids Baird the week before. Audubon has a lot of skill.
Yep.
They have it. They have speed at quarterback. They have speed at running back and speed on the wide receivers and size up front. They're a complete football team. It's going to be tough for anybody to play them going through here.
Well, and you look at Glidden's record, and some people are going to go 3-5. There's one game on that list, and it's not a bad loss, but it's that loss that you go, yeah, that one could have maybe went out either way, and that was the Exire and Kimballton loss. But Tom Peterson, Craig Lynch, 2 Hall of Fame coaches, but you look at the rest of them, it was when Woodbine was healthy, and they were scoring 80 against everybody. Audubon, Coon, and Cam are their other 3 losses on the season, so they've lost to really good football teams this year. So as I told Cole Corson and Craig after the game that night, you've got a good football team, but your schedule this year was just murderer's row.
Well, on the top of it, they had a lot of preseason injuries. I mean, they had
Yep.
three of their best guys got hurt before the season started. So, just one of those tough years for them.
Arweva hoping to get their third win on the year. I'm going to tell you what, there was a possibility out there they could finish with 4 wins. And as young as they are, that would have been a huge deal. But they fall to Kingsley Pearson 36-22 on Friday night.
Yeah, kind of got down and then grabbed a lead and just things didn't go the way they needed them to that night. Still a young team. Hopefully they'll get win number 3 coming up this week. They've got River Valley, which is a winnable game. I'll have that game for everybody on KKRL. So just for confidence for them here, they kind of need that win here at the end.
Yeah, so Arweva once again saw an opportunity, but maybe that third win comes next week. But for a young ball club, that's a good schedule. That's a good record.
Absolutely, their district's been strong enough too, and it's just growing pains. For a young team.
How many did the freshmen win from that great senior class that just left?
I don't think they won one or so.
Yeah, they struggled
one or two, and stuff. So,
well, and this might be maybe the second best district they're in, behind Coon.
Yeah,
it's pretty tough.
It's fairly tough. I would say it's really tough at the top with Remsen and Harris Lake Park, and then I think you drop to New Alfonda, and then I think there's a larger drop to the rest of the teams.
New Alfonda's
in that
not
district.
much of a drop, though.
Well, but they've gotten hammered by both Harris Lake Park and Remsen St. Mary, so there is a drop between those two and Newell this year.
Well, ESAC kind of showed when they're healthy, they're a pretty good team. They roll up a 54-6 win over Missouri Valley.
Yeah, and I tell you what, if you talked about South Central Calhoun's start, what a start for the Raiders that night. They came out and led 27-0 at the end of the first quarter. The Haynes kid, one of the best running backs in the state in Class 1A, last year finished second in the state in that class in rushing yards at the end of the season, one of the leaders again this year, and they just absolutely took him completely out of the game and just flat dominated from the get-go.
I edited pictures yesterday from Tom Brinks, and you saw the gang tackling. I mean, they were just all over that kid. There wasn't one person tackling. There was 4 or 5 around. So some really cool pictures of that.
Yeah, 47-0 the score at the end of the first half. Just 17 plays offensively in the first half for ESAC in that first half. So you put up those kind of numbers. That rivals what Audubon did in their game. So, it would have been really nice, and you hate to say this for Coach, but would have been really nice to see what that team could have done healthy this year. I think Trainer and Underwood probably really glad that they caught him when they weren't healthy.
Yeah, and finally the game, OABCIG defeats Kemper 41-0 on Friday night.
Yeah, Kemper started moving the ball on their first possession, really wanted to chew up clock. They left the clock run down and ran out the play clock on pretty much every snap to try and keep that Falcon offense off of the field. Got the ball across midfield, then turned it over, and OABCIG hit a slant pattern across the middle and then scored on the next play and quickly got out. It was a close game through a quarter, but the second quarter really kind of got away from Kemper on Friday night. And I think part of that's, OABCIG is just that good, and the DeJean kid really, really good. He looks like a D1 kid.
Pick your sport.
Yeah. I talked with their coach, Larry Allen, on Thursday night over at a volleyball match that I was over there at, and he's got a lot of D1 programs and really good D1 programs, Power 5 schools looking at him. The problem is he's so good at basketball, and he might be a kid that wants to play basketball, so he's going to have his choice of where he probably goes and what sport he plays.
He's only
just a junior.
Let's say junior this year, so he's got time to think, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got to wonder how the Falcons are going to do in the playoffs. 336 yards passing that night.
They've got a big one coming up Friday night. They take on Greene County for the district championship. 2 undefeateds, 2 teams ranked in the top 5. So that'll be I'm going to be hoping to follow that one a little bit on Twitter while I'm doing my game, just to kind of see how that game plays out. That should be a really good game.
Very good game. We got one more break to get through here, and we'll be back with more KCIM Sports Rewind next.
As the athletes at your... Healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
It's KCIM Sports Rewind. We just recapped all the high school football games. Now let's get you set for what? All right. Let me. See, I didn't even mean to turn his mic off.
Wow. Wow.
I have a feeling he still picked up through your mic.
I'm sure. Yeah, the hair on the back of my neck is standing up, so I heard it plenty loud over here. We have got some good matchups going on Friday night. What are the ones you're looking at?
To me, the game of the week potentially is Carroll Dallas at Grimes. District championship on the line. Two good football teams going to be squaring off against each other. Carroll really needs to establish that run game. If you look what DCG did against Glenwood earlier this year at Glenwood when they opened up their new stadium, their defense went in and just flat dominated. They've struggled in the district against some of the teams that Carroll High has rolled over. But when I talked with Denny about that, he's like, Jeff, he says, we've tried to tell the kids you can't score compare. It just doesn't work that way. So they need to show up ready to play. But this is certainly a game the Tigers can go down and get.
I would assume the Audubon-Cam game is going to have a major impact on the playoffs.
That will be the second game of the week, I think, out of the local schools. Yeah. Audubon wins. They're outright district champions, and they probably host all the way to the Dome with where they're ranked at number 2 right now in the RPI. So they would get home games their first 2 games. If Cam wins, there's a good chance if Coon knocks off Exira Elkhorn Kimballton, which won't be easy. Exira is going to be angry after losing to Boyer Valley last week. There's a possibility that Coon, based off of RPI, could jump up and be the district champion, and they could be the team that gets to host. So there's still a lot riding and stuff, on this game. And Caminita's kind of sitting there going, well, if we knock off number 2, can we slide up enough, to maybe still get,
if Audubon wins, it could slide Coon up as well. So Coon may actually even get a home game there, too. So there's a lot of stuff going on with that game.
Yeah,
so they're not matching up in the first round between Coon and Audubon. The thing that's tough for Coon, though, is I don't know. District champions get home games first. So if there's enough, there's enough districts, all the district champions. So Coon, the only way they get really home games is to win that first round. Yeah. And, of course, other ones we're watching over the weekend, South Central Calhoun Pokey and IKM Manning and Ridgeview.
Yeah. IKM Manning, no matter what they do Friday night's got that district wrapped up, but they still want to go in winning strong, 6 in a row or whatever and playing good football. And then
Kemper should get a win with Shenandoah.
Kemper should get a win with Shenandoah, absolutely. And then, again, South Central, no matter what happens, they've locked up the district championship. They'd have the tiebreaker, but they need a win to win that district outright. And knowing that coaching staff and knowing those kids, they don't want to lose week 9. The thing for them is, depending on how things turn out with Western Christian in their game on Friday night, most people think South Central is going to go Northwest against either West Sioux, West Lyon, or Western Christian. But there is the potential, depending on how the Western Christian game goes, that it could be Underwood and Trainer that get sent Northwest, and South Central with a win on Friday night potentially could get sent down to the Panorama ACGC Mount Ayr area. So that puts a lot of pressure on this game to go out and win that one as well.
And I think if you're South Central Calhoun, you're not shying away from the Northwest Iowa team, but you'd much rather go that way.
Well, you'd rather play them in the Dome.
Right.
If you're going to play them in the Dome.
You got 3 teams ranked in the top 5 up in that district. So, and then you got South Central Calhoun that I think is a top 5 team. So, if the state's even wise, you set it up where you kind of have a South Central Calhoun, regional. You kind of got the Northwest Iowa regional because they're not going to spread them out. You got Van Meter, you could kick east, and then you've got them, and then you got New Hartford up there in the northeast.
Wait,
so
you're asking the state to think, though.
Yeah, I know, but those 4 teams probably should be the teams that have the best chance to get to state.
Just saying, in the past they haven't. They just kind of throw them together.
Way to verbalize that.
Sorry.
It's easy. It's easier for them to throw South Central Calhoun Northwest every year, and it's not always
decision.
It's not always probably the right thing to do if you want the 4 best teams to get to the Dome.
Yeah, it's easiest geographically to say, oh, well, that was just, that worked out naturally that way. So it doesn't have to.
No, absolutely.
All right. That is KCIM Sports Rewind. Look forward to Week 9 high school football, final week of the New Way Ford Scoreboard Show on Friday night.
We'll have one more
for
the
in
first
playoffs.
round of the playoffs, you bet. Just want to mention also Craig Lynch wrapping up his coaching career Friday over at West Harrison. So I had a nice little conversation with him about it after the game, home game Friday night, with that being his last home game. He is going to join us some Tuesday morning. I'll talk to him about that. So we'll get him on either, probably not next Tuesday, but maybe the Tuesday or the Tuesday after. So sometime in the next 3 weeks, Craig's going to join us in studio.
I did run into him out buying Gatorade before that really cold, windy night. He was, I don't know how much. I bet he's not going to miss those. Not one single bit. He's still going to be at the games.
He'll still be at the games, but he'll be able to, maybe sit in the press box and be a little warmer.
It's been fun interviewing him this year. You can see he's more relaxed. He's really reflective. It's been fun.
Yep. All right. So that is KCIM Sports Rewind for this week.
When you need to know, KCIM